Go on, I said. In the cab. He did as he was told. I yanked on John Coffey's arm until I could get his attention back to earth for a bit, then led him around to the rear of the truck, which was stake-sided. Harry had draped canvas over the posts, and that would be of some help if we passed cars or trucks going the other way. He hadn't been able to do anything about the open back, though. Upsy daisy, big boy, I said. Goin' for the ride now? That's right. Good. He smiled. It was sweet and lovely, that smile, perhaps the more so because it wasn't complicated by much in the way of thought. He got up and back. I followed him, went to the front of the truck bed, and banged on top of the cab. Harry ground the transmission into first and the truck pulled out of the little bower he had hidden it in, shaking and juddering. John Coffey stood spread-legged in the middle of the truck bed, head cocked up at the stars again, smiling broadly, unmindful of the bows that whipped at him as Harry turned his truck toward the highway. Look, boss! He cried in a low, rapturous voice, pointing up into the black night. It's Cassie, the lady in the rockin' chair. He was right, I could see her in the lane of stars between the dark bulk of the passing trees. But it wasn't Cassiopeia I thought of when he spoke of the lady in the rocking chair, it was Melinda Moores. I see her, John, I said, and tugged on his arm. But you have to sit down now, all right? He sat with his back against the cab, never taking his eyes off the night sky. On his face was a look of sublime unthinking happiness. The Green Mile fell farther behind us with each revolution of the Farmall's bald tires, and for the time being, at least, the seemingly endless flow of John Coffey's tears had stopped. Seven. It was 25 miles to Hal Moore's house on Chimney Ridge, and in Harry Terwilliger's slow and rattly farm truck, the trip took over an hour. It was an eerie ride, and although it seems to me now that every moment of it is still etched in my memory, every turn, every bump, every dip, the scary times, 2 of them, when trucks passed us going the other way, I don't think I could come even close to describing how I felt, sitting back there with John Coffey, both of us bundled up like Indians in the old blankets Harry had been thoughtful enough to bring along. It was, most of all, a sense of lostness, the deep and terrible ache a child feels when he realizes he has gone wrong somewhere, all the landmarks are strange, and he no longer knows how to find his way home. I was out in the night with a prisoner, not just any prisoner, but one who had been tried and convicted for the murder of 2 little girls, and sentenced to die for the crime. My belief that he was innocent wouldn't matter if we were caught, we would go to jail ourselves, and probably Dean Stanton would, too. I had thrown over a life of work and belief because of one bad execution and because I believed the overgrown lummox sitting beside me might be able to cure a woman's inoperable brain tumor. Yet watching John watch the stars, I realized with dismay that I no longer did believe that, if I ever really had, my urinary infection seemed far away and unimportant now, as such harsh and painful things always do once they are past. If a woman could really remember how bad it hurt to have her first baby, my mother once said, she'd never have a second. As for Mr. Jingles, wasn't it possible, even likely, that we had been wrong about how badly Percy had hurt him? Or that John, who really did have some kind of hypnotic power, there was no doubt of that much, at least, had somehow fooled us into thinking we'd seen something we hadn't seen at all? Then there was the matter of Hal Moore's. On the day I'd surprised him in his office, I'd encountered a palsied, weepy old man. But I didn't think that was the truest side of the warden. I thought the real Warden Moores was the man who'd once broken the wrist of a skatehound who tried to stab him, the man who had pointed out to me with cynical accuracy that Delacroix's nuts were going to cook no matter who was out front on the execution team. Did I think that Hal Moores would stand meekly aside and let us bring a convicted child murderer into his house to lay hands on his wife? My doubt grew like a sickness as we rode along. I simply did not understand why I had done the things I had, or why I persuaded the others to go along with me on this crazy night journey, and I did not believe we had a chance of getting away with it, not a hound's chance of heaven, as the old-timers used to say. Yet I made no effort to cry it off, either, which I might have been able to do. Things wouldn't pass irrevocably out of our hands until we showed up at Moore's house. Something, I think it might have been no more than the waves of exhilaration coming off the giant sitting next to me, kept me from hammering on top of the cab and yelling at Harry to turn around and go back to the prison while there was still time. Such was my frame of mind as we passed off the highway and onto County 5, and from County 5 onto Chimney Ridge Road. Some 15 minutes after that, I saw the shape of a roof blotting out the stars and knew we had arrived. Harry shifted down from second to low. I think he only made it all the way into top gear once during the whole trip. The engine lugged, sending a shudder through the whole truck, as if it, too, dreaded what now lay directly ahead of us. Harry swung into Moore's gravel driveway and parked the grumbling truck behind the warden's sensible black Buick. Ahead and slightly to our right was a neat as a pin house in the style which I believe is called Cape Cod. That sort of house should have looked out of place in our ridge country, perhaps, but it didn't. The moon had come up, its grin a little fatter this morning, and by its light I could see that the yard, always so beautifully kept, now looked uncared for. It was just leaves, mostly, that hadn't been raked away. Under normal circumstances that would have been Mellie's job, but Mellie hadn't been up to any leaf raking this fall, and she would never see the leaves fall again. That was the truth of the matter, and I had been mad to think this vacant-eyed idiot could change it. Maybe it still wasn't too late to save ourselves, though. I made as if to get up, the blanket I'd been wearing slipping off my shoulders. I would lean over, tap on the driver's side window, tell Harry to get the hell out before. John Coffey grabbed my forearm in one of his ham-hock fists, pulling me back down as effortlessly as I might have done to a toddler. "Look, boss," he said, pointing. "Someone's up."